You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, let's talk sports. And that is the sports world is very much involved in the aftermath of what happened to George Floyd. Steven Jackson of the 14 years in the NBA, very good friends. They even called George Floyd his twin because they look so much alike. A lot of athletes have been speaking out. The Los Angeles Lakers spoke as a team. Go to my iPad, please. LeBron James posted this: "If you ain't with us, we ain't with y'all." All of the, first of all, the NBA has been speaking out, NFL, all of the people have been speaking out. And what's quite interesting is that Greg Popovich, only 2 NBA teams have not released a statement. But Greg Popovich actually released a statement which actually spoke loud. And so as far as that, that's the Spurs. The thing that strikes me is that we all see this police violence and racism, and we've seen it all before. Go to my iPad, but nothing changes. That's why these protests have been so explosive. But without leadership and an understanding of what the problem is, there will never be change. And white Americans have avoided reckoning with this problem forever because it's been our privilege to be able to avoid it. It also has to change. Now, the New York Knicks are the only NBA team that have not released a statement. What they sent out internally was a joke, irking a lot of the players for the Knicks. I'm trying to figure out why in the hell don't y'all say something. Now, today, Tiger Woods dropped this statement. This is what he wrote: "My heart goes out to George Floyd, his loved ones, and all of us who are hurting right now. I've always had the utmost respect for our law enforcement. They train so diligently to understand how, when, and where to use force. This shocking tragedy clearly crossed that line. I remember the LA riots and learned that education is the best path forward. We can make our points without burning the very neighborhoods that we live in. I hope that through constructive, honest conversations, we can build a safer, unified society." Can't wait to hear what Howard Bryant of ESPN has to say. Howard, of course, the author of a number of books. I'm going to read those in a second. Okay, Howard. First of all, take it away. Tiger.
Well, the first thing, and I saw it when you posted Tiger, I think it was this afternoon, the very first thing I saw was the second sentence where it brought me into thinking, why is it so important to constantly protect law enforcement while criticizing them? I just don't understand. I feel like for every other industry that we talk about, when there's accountability, you deal with what took place immediately. You deal with the infraction. You deal with exactly what happened. But here, when you deal with police, always this conversation about how to qualify and talk about how much you respect police, all of these different machinations that you have to go through, when really the question is simple, basic accountability. Arrest the perpetrators, charge them, try them, convict them. And instead, I hate to say it, Roland, but it almost feels like we use racism, or they use racism, as sort of the red herring here, where instead of talking about arresting these guys and going through the process, because there are plenty of processes when it comes to accountability, instead we talk about we have to change people's hearts and we have to abolish racism. No one's talking about that. Just do your job and arrest these officers because they broke the law the same way you would arrest anybody else for breaking.
Talk about this here. You have Grant Napier, Sacramento Kings announcer, posted an All Lives Matter tweet, pissed off a lot of Sacramento Kings players. They call him a closet racist. For that, Sacramento Kings suspended him. Well, guess what? There's a new talk show opening. There's a new opening to be an announcer for the Sacramento Kings because he has been fired as a result. When you cross...
He's not racist anymore.
Huh?
He's not a closet racist anymore.
But again, this was Boogie Cousins and other players calling him out, and the Kings had to pay attention.
Well, and they have to pay attention because, once again, when we talk about this, and let's remember something about the NBA and about sports in general. Why do we talk about sports differently than we do any of the other industries? Because it's so dominant, because the labor is so dominantly run by African Americans. So do they have some say? And especially in the NBA, when you're dealing with an 80% black league and real superstar players who have unbelievable levels of influence, do they have some say? And when they exercise their say, I'm actually watching that Donald Sterling, Doc Rivers, Chris Paul documentary on Quibi right now.
Yep.
When they exercise their power. When they decide to say something, you do have to listen. And so that's why this industry is different.
What's also interesting about that is that the NFL has been under heavy criticism because of the statement that they released, knowing full well that they, have whiteballed Colin Kaepernick out of the NFL. This is what they sent out. The NFL family is greatly saddened by the tragic events across our country. The protesters' reactions to these incidents reflect the pain, anger, and frustration that so many of us feel. While our deepest condolences go out to the family of Mr. George Floyd and to those who have lost loved ones, including the families of Miss Breonna Taylor of Louisville, Mr. Ahmaud Arbery, the cousin of Tracy Walker of the Detroit Lions. They have some other stuff in there from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. You can read it, folks, on social media. Man, if you go to that tweet and read the comments underneath it, they got vilified because the reality is the NFL, for all this little talk, they're still whiteballing Colin Kaepernick, who 4 years ago kneeled for this very reason.
For this very issue. And on top of that, you're going to put out that release, not mention police at all. How are you going to put that out? What did he? He just died by himself? He just died because of racism? No, he died because the police killed him. And that's what I mean about this sort of observation of the actual facts. Why is it so difficult to avoid facts?
No, I mean, literally nowhere in here. No, nothing.
And none of the reports. I think the only one was, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner. He put out a statement that actually mentioned police brutality. But nobody deals with the fact that the police killed this man. And so, but we understand the reason. And I think these are the things that actually do have to get talked about, the business relationships that these sports leagues have with these teams. Also, the fear, once again, as we saw with Beyonce in Miami, as we saw with the Cleveland Browns, as we saw with the St. Louis Rams with Hands Up, Don't Shoot in Ferguson in 2014, if you criticize the police outright, they are going to come after you, as the St. Louis Police Union did, going after the Rams, trying to get those 4 players disciplined. So we also see, one, you've got a business relationship, but then the other part of it, too, is that they don't want the criticism. And I think where this really affects Black people the most is what they're really saying through all of it, is that you as a Black consumer, you as a consumer of the NFL, you are nowhere near as important as the white fan base that we feel like we're going to offend if we actually challenge the police. So we have to sort of walk this line here. We have to let you know we care, so you guys don't go out and kneel and demonstrate and do things to upset the business. But at the same time, we're not going to make it plain. We're not going to say exactly what took place because we don't want to offend the police and we don't want to offend our white fans. They should take a page from Ben and Jerry's.
We've also seen players being actively involved, and that is, and this is, I think that if you start talking about, Colin Kaepernick and others, but look at this here. This is, guys, go to my iPad, please. This is Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. Megaphone in leading a march, involved in a march. I mean, these guys, this simply, we just saw that documentary of Michael Jordan. Yes, Craig Hodges was on that team, actively involved. This is a different generation of players.
Completely. It's a completely different generation, and it's a generation, as we were talking about, and you and I were talking about this last night, is that you also have this generation 2008 election, was a seminal election for them, a seminal moment for them, and people of voting age, and those kids, what's really kind of interesting, if that was your first election, you're 30 years old now, and you're looking at this very, very differently than we look at it, that you believed in this promise. You believed in this post-racial America. Now you feel betrayed. And what's really fascinating about this is that when you look at the demonstration across the cities, across the country, incredible, incredible diversity in it, because you've got a lot of these kids of this young generation who feel like, wait a minute, we thought we were here, but we're not here yet. And now they're finding out that they're not free either. These white kids, for the first time in their lives, are finding out they're not free either, getting shot with rubber bullets and whatnot.
The thing that is quite interesting here, when you begin to talk about what's going on, I'm going to bring in my panel here, so go ahead and bring the panel in as well. I want to bring them in. President George W. Bush released this statement. It is a strength when protesters, protected by responsible law enforcement, march for a better future. This tragedy in a long series of similar tragedies raises a long overdue question. How do we end systemic racism in our society? Howard, Jamel, your former colleague at ESPN, Jamel Hill tweeted, George Bush gave a far better statement about racial injustice than Tiger Woods. 2020 continues to be with the shits.
Right. Well, I mean, look at it, right? But still, to me, yeah, you can talk about all the statements you want. You can talk about who's gonna outdo who, what character. But the bottom line is, you do a real disservice to more complicated. This is a district attorney, state, this is federal.
Hold tight 1 second, Howard. Every other word is breaking up, so we want to try to get your line fixed. Let me bring in Kelly, Joseph, as well as Davon here. Sports is a huge part of what we do. It matters, obviously, for so many different people. But these are athletes who are saying, we're not going to take this. We're going to use our power and we're going to use our voices. They're not being silent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, if we're really being honest here, I think what we saw with the, as we mentioned before, with the Clippers, with their ability to get an owner removed by even the threat of not playing. So I think that until we actually have players who are willing to say that we're not going to take the field, that the bread and circuses are going to stop, and until we have a community committed in that effort, to say that I'm not going to cross that line, that I'm not going to use this as my opportunity to bootstrap my way to an NFL career or a Major League Baseball career, or a basketball career. That is the type of unity as a community that will be required to give the individuals with the leverage in the sports community the ability to drive home a message in the only way that gets home to most Americans, which is with dollars. And which is in their personal comfort, because we know that sports are in many ways an extension of people's personal happiness, and it's an extension of people's monetary resources, and it's also an extension of the tapestry of America. And so when that stops, we are forced to listen. And so, as I said before, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're seeing this robust uprising at a time when there are no sports to be found on any television dial.
Kelly, what this also says is that these athletes are saying, stop just telling me to play ball and shut up. They're saying, you are going to listen to me. I've got something to say.
Absolutely. The thing about this is we have a history of our athletes speaking out. It was just a period of it not happening, either by way of new athletes saying, hey, I have money, it's not my problem anymore, or it's just not in my face anymore, what have you. But now it's in your face, and now athletes do feel empowered to say something again. So, from Ali to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to LeBron James now, and I can think of a couple others that I've seen on TV since Black Lives Matter movement has come up. Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens is someone that I think of. But again, these athletes have a voice, and just like us, they're citizens too. They're Americans too.
Right.
But more importantly, a lot of them are Black men.
Yep.
So I would be hard pressed to think that they're not going to say anything at this juncture, because now with everything going on and what we've seen, not even they are safe.
Got it.
So I feel like they have an obligation to speak out.
Davon, then I'm going to Howard. Davon, real quick, go ahead.
What I think the test is, because when you think about someone like Muhammad Ali, he was willing to stand up to the American imperialist project of neocolonialism, and he lost 3 of the best years of his career because he was willing to stand up in that way. I think as it relates to this issue, and I think one of your other panelists mentioned this, that the ability for the athletes currently to challenge the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the formal organizational political entity that a lot of these companies are afraid of, that is going to be the test. The extent to, and again, your panelists mentioned that a lot of them will talk about their sympathies for George Floyd, but aren't really talking about the issues related to policing and the way they need to be challenged. So that's really going to be the test.
Howard Bryant, we're showing a live video right now of protesters still in front of the White House. It is 30 minutes after the curfew. They ain't leaving.
No.
And Howard, just wanted just the last point from you here. I just think this is different, Howard. I keep saying this, and I'm telling you, I think people better get ready. This thing will not end after George Floyd's funeral on Tuesday.
No, it's not going to end that way. And I think you got to remember, you got a perfect storm happening here. Let's not forget, you're also dealing with 3 years of Donald Trump, 3.5 years of Donald Trump. You're dealing with Charlottesville. You're dealing with Colin Kaepernick SOBs. You're dealing with a perfect storm. You're dealing with him not being there for the pandemic. And in a lot of ways, what's going to happen is that you're seeing the George Floyd murder sort of be a springboard to the final, the final fall of Donald Trump in a lot of ways, because when they're standing out in the street, they're essentially defying an order saying, look, the power of the people is greater than your office, and we're going to see what they're going to do. Are you willing to actually send the military against 300 million Americans, or however many are going to be out there?
It is just absolutely amazing to watch what is going on. And one of the things that also, and this could be the last question for Howard. I was out there a little bit earlier, and what you're seeing is the black protest leaders reassert their authority over these protests and telling folks, no, we're not going to give them what they want by sitting here looting. And so I think that's the other deal. Apparently, there's also some evidence that the FBI has uncovered where white supremacist groups have been telling their people to go out there and get involved in these protests as well. That is happening as well. So a lot of moving pieces here, Howard.
And let's not forget, part of those moving pieces is how much of this is being manipulated by foreign government, right? How much are we actually being manipulated here as we speak? There's no question, when I thought watching what was taking place last week or last weekend, I was thinking that how much of this is actually coordinated, and not that it matters too much, but I think it is important that you see that the black activists out there taking control of the movement that they believe is theirs. So when you see that taking place, you can certainly tell that those moving parts are colliding with each other. And like I said, I mean, I think you're right. We are at a point right now where there are certain movements where things are different, where they resonate in a way that they didn't before. And this is one of those flashpoints.
Folks, get Howard's most recent book. Go to my iPad, please. Full Dissidence, Notes from an Uneven Playing Field by Howard Bryant. Howard, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Yes, sir. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. We want to, of course, we support black-owned businesses here, and Mary Spiel has created these amazing headphones. The company is Ceek, CEEK.com. This is a 360-degree 4D headphone. I love the colors being black and gold. Gamers love these headsets as well. You can also, they're Bluetooth, comes with a headset. You can actually talk as well. The sound is unbelievable, and so we have a special code for you. If you want to actually get you a pair of these headsets, all you got to do is use the code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. That's a special code for the people who, of course, who watch this show. That's the promo code. You can actually get this headset. A lot of us, of course, listen to music, and we want to be able to support a black-owned business, and we thank them for partnering with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so check them out at Ceek.com, CEEK.com. Every time you buy one of these, we also get a percentage of that. So when you buy this to support a black-owned business, you're actually helping another black-owned business, and that is Roland Martin Unfiltered. They also, of course, have their virtual reality headsets as well, so you can get one or both of those. So go to Ceek.com, CEEK.com.